Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game. Honk, honk to you, dear listeners. This is a co-op episode, the version of the podcast where instead of having someone on to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life, I bring on a group of people to discuss a game that we, ideally, have recently played. This is more of an overview podcast, but don't you worry. If there's any context from our lives, you can be sure that we'll be getting into it. This version of the show is also a bonus that initially lives on our Patreon for our $10 Engineer Toad tiers. So if you're listening to this on Patreon, thank you so much for your support. It means a lot. Hope you're enjoying this series of episodes that we're doing this year as we cover indie games in the year 2025. We're covering, of course, today on episode 57, Untitled Goose Game. And then if you're listening to this on YouTube, which comes out a week later for free for everybody, thank you for listening and watching to this. And if you're listening to this in the future on the free feed, I can't even predict how far out this episode's going to release. Thank you as well. If you like the format and you want to see what we're up to now on the Patreon, there's a link in the show notes where you can find our other bonus episodes, or just go back in this feed and find all the goodness that you could ever want. That's going to do it for the housekeeping for today's episode, and I'll introduce our guests. Folks, I couldn't be more excited. It's the month of March at Super NPC Radio on the co-op series, so that can mean only one thing. We got the Half-Life crew back together, so consider this our Half-Life 3 episode. We don't even need it, Valve. Nobody wants it. First and foremost, we'll welcome back the little stinker, Michael Hearn. Michael, welcome back.
Honk, honk, honk.
Very good. We also have a big honker, Garrett Morlang.
Honk, honk, honk.
And the final guest on our panel, an absolute menace, Kristin Thorson.
Honk, 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 honk.
And if you're listening, listener, which you are, because you're hearing me talk, I'm going to be talking to the panel as they only do that for this whole episode. There will not be words. So if you can understand what we're saying, honks off to you. Folks, welcome back. We got the Half-Life crew. I mean, I don't even know what to say. This is basically Christmas for me. Michael,
Honk life.
I mean, it really is. How you feeling, Hearn? 3 years in a row with this crew?
Yeah, couldn't be better. And yeah, I agree with you. We don't need Half-Life 3 anymore. We got the true successor with Untitled Goose Game.
Yes. I mean, I know some people have compared this to other games in history, but I really feel like it is truly the successor to Half-Life 2. Garrett Morlang, you're here as well. Our buddy I always say the Super Gamer Boys because I've got to just put a word in front of Super Gamer Boys, but our buddy from Super Gamer Boys, how you doing, pal?
Doing great. I also feel like this is the perfect sequel, maybe even a better sequel than Half-Life, or prequel. Maybe this is a prequel. Could this be the prequel that we wanted in Half-Life Alyx that we're never going to play here on the podcast because Connor won't let us?
Maybe
I'm a
bit
this
of
is
a
it.
tyrant.
Yeah.
Well, glad to have you. And I know I'm basically just reintroducing all three people, but Kristin, welcome back. Stalwart here. We've had you on a few things recently at Super NPC Radio, especially a couple of we had you on for the PlayStation 1 Space Solace Redux. We had you on for the gamer, what did I call it? The video game dating game. Is what we had you on for.
It was a real smooth thing to say.
Yes, you can see how well I planned it and all the thought that went into the title by how much I stumbled over it now. But good to have you back, friend.
Yeah, thank you. And also, Valve, if you're listening, these men do not speak for me. I desperately want Left 4 Dead 3 and then Half-Life 3.
Yes.
But please, Left 4 Dead 3, please.
These are Kristin's demands, and she will not cede ground on any of them. I'm very excited today to have you three back. I mean, like I know, I already said it, but for the 3 Marches in a row, I've had this exact crew back to discuss a game on the co-op series. 2 years ago, I just felt like playing the game Half-Life, and this is the crew I assembled. Last year, I actually had a plan for the series. We covered great sequels of all time in video game history, ones that we hadn't covered before in the network. So we touched Half-Life 2 and its other subsequent episodes, and then, we're doing indies today and this year, so I figured, what the heck. Also, for whatever reason, I have this fascination because this is the only crew that I consistently get back together. Everything else is just a random mishmash. I don't know why I'm so attached to this. And any speculation? Does anyone have any guesses to because I can't tell you what's going on.
It's our unfathomable chemistry.
I think that's part of it. Maybe this is our found family in a way.
Yeah.
Well, it's great too because none of us know each other from. Well, maybe Garrett and Hearn do, but I don't think so. I think we were all just also from random groups of people.
Yes, that is the case. I mean, my connection to all of you. Well, I guess Hearn and I met each other through improv first, but through and Kristin sort of by way of improv through our father Jake Sprague. But
that is what I call him.
Yes.
As in like my preacher though, my father Jake Sprague.
Yes. But yeah, that is a fun little detail about it is that, yeah, you're all people I have different video game connections with and who I, throughout the years like to ask to do extra little things here and there. So thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm sure the listener was so thrilled to watch me just stumble through that excited introduction. As I've already said, today on episode 57, we're covering Untitled Goose Game, by Panic, developed by House, published by Panic. I'm really excited to do this today. First things first, I want to lead with a little bit of our histories with the game, if we have any to share. Then we'll talk about some history and context of the game itself, and then finally get into the big broad strokes of what we feel like discussing today. So first and foremost, I'll start with my personal history. Like most of the games we're covering this year, and if not most, all, I have never played this game before. But since this game sort of like burst into the zeitgeist in 2019 at some showcase, I have been aware of it. I have had like I would say, slight desire to play it. I've never, obviously, if I was, just absolutely dying to do so, I would have gotten to it before the year 2025. It's almost 6 years old. But yeah, no experience with it. This is my first game that I'm going to be playing by House. I know they've got a new game that is allegedly coming out this year. But yeah, I will say, while I never played it, I did jump through a couple hoops to get this game on my Nintendo Switch. Because I wanted to have it on Switch, I was like, I figured Switch is the best way to play this. It originally came out on Switch. It's such a Switch title. I won't dive into what that means at all. I had a gift card to Best Buy that I had received from Christmas, and I figured that I could buy it digitally through Best Buy to get a code for my Switch because I didn't want to spend any money. Sure enough, I did. So I went and bought this game, went and played it, and then after I played it, I was on my Steam library. And what did I find in my Steam library? An already purchased Untitled Goose Game. This is the first time I can remember ever buying a game without my knowledge of owning it before.
Mr. Moneybags over here.
I know.
All his copies of Untitled Goose Game.
Yes, I'm filthy stinking rich, and I really that's the main reason I want to do this episode, is for people to know. But so I played this game on the Nintendo Switch over the last week and a half, really, and I guess I own it on 2 platforms, and that's what I want people to know. Hearn, I'll turn to you next, pal. What's your history with this game?
All right. I just want to shout out Panic, the company that made this, also made the Playdate, which I have not played. Yes, I'm very curious about, but I feel that's very apropos for the people.
Garrett.
Garrett's showing off. He's got a very
my battery's
nicely...
dead, but I love this.
Just crank it real quick. Isn't that how it works?
Give it a little crank. Good to go.
Hell yeah. No, I've always wanted to try it. It seems like a very nifty idea. So I think they really put their money where their mouth is about wanting to try really new fun things with game mechanics. I know they developed a couple other interesting indie games. But I've only played this one so far.
Okay.
And I played it the year it came out. I have it on Steam. And yeah, I don't know if it had a slow rollout or I just didn't get it set up for the co-op, but I didn't play it in co-op until the prompt for this episode came up, and I got to play a little bit with Kelsey, which I'll hopefully bring up soon. Got to be geese with her. But yes, at the time, I think this was a fun time for indie gaming. I think Donut County was around the same era, some fun novelty, driven indie games. And this was a big deal splash in the mainstream one, because I remember a lot of people were aware of it. It was on a lot of people's radar for how nifty and interesting and off the beaten path it was. And yeah, there's a lot of fun elements to it that I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I played it. I was into it when it came out. Didn't really have much of a reason to keep replaying it, obviously, But then, like, yeah, actually getting to experience co-op for the first time, I'll be happy to share that experience.
Okay, lovely. Garrett Morlang.
Yeah, my experience is recent, similar to yours, Connor, where, yeah, it was just within the last month or so, I picked it up. I did not own it, but I don't know how it always works out. Whenever you ask me to do a show with you and play some game, it always goes on sale. It's like magic. I don't know if you're doing that on purpose or what, but it was on sale for like $7 or $8 on Steam. I'm like, you got it. Pick it up there. Played on my Steam Deck OLED. And
this is Mr. Moneybags.
Mr. Moneybags. No, but I picked it up. I'm trying to remember when I started it, maybe like a month ago, and I was flying back. I think it was when I was flying back from Seattle. We had done like a week vacation to Seattle to see some friends, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to kick this off. You know, Connor just talked to me about this game. I already purchased it, had it downloaded, ready to go. I'm like, I think it's time. This is a perfect time. And let me tell you, it's a pretty fun playing game. I mean, we'll talk more about it, but yeah, it was a good, fun little pickup. I had heard about it back in 2019, and same thing where it was just like, all right, I knew Panic was, great publisher. I know, it was kind of like this big boom and like all these fun little goofy little indie games like Hearn was saying, but missed out on it. I don't know, all these years and people just raving about it. I feel like that's all I ever heard. I mean, Adrian on our show, he's like Mr. Indie Games,
Yes.
And so it seemed it was kind of crazy that I hadn't played it until now, but finally did. And it was a good time that I'm excited to talk about.
Wonderful. Kristin, last but not least, what's your history with this?
I feel like I think this might have been a COVID play for me.
Ooh.
Because I looked it up. It came out in 2019, and I just remember playing it because I was like, I remember the vibe being like, okay, I'll finally check this game out now that I have nothing to do. Not that I was doing a whole lot. I was very much, there wasn't a lot of change in my activity between COVID and not COVID time. But I think that was the catalyst for me finally playing it. And I've always been, if anybody has ever like looked at my top 10 game lists over the years, like I'm always playing weird indie shit anyway. And so indie stuff generally stays on my radar. And this one, I played it. I liked it. I did. I miss Moneybags because I bought it again on Steam when it went on sale, so that I could brush up a tiny bit on it because it has been since 2020 that I played it. When you point one finger, there's three pointing back at you. I own it on multiple platforms.
I love it. Wow.
I don't mean to derail the podcast, but Garrett and Kristin, Mr. and Mrs. Bunnybanks, I have an investment opportunity for you guys if you're interested.
All right, we can meet afterwards. We'll talk afterwards.
Strange. I'm already getting cut out of this deal. Fantastic. I love dipping a little bit into the history. I'll probably talk more as we get into it about how I played. Not that it was particularly interesting, but I'll open it up for any additional context that we want to share. Before we do talk about, the big broad strokes, we're going to dive into the history and context to set the table a little bit for the listener. If they're watching this, they're probably familiar with this title, but just in case, we'll fill in some of the gaps. And folks, if you want to jump in at any time, feel free to interrupt me as I monologue. Without further ado, Untitled Goose Game is a 2019 indie puzzle stealth game developed by House and published by Panic Inc. Players control a goose who bothers the inhabitants of an English village. Players must use the goose's abilities to manipulate objects and non-player characters to complete objectives. It was released on Mac OS, Nintendo Switch, and Windows on September 20th, 2019. And the way you know this is a British game, or like at least has a British air to it, and I think the developers are actually Australian, is that the date is written 20 September 2019. How dare they?
The audacity.
It was also released. Sorry, go ahead, Garrett.
I said the audacity.
How dare they? Yeah, that's when my patriotism comes out, is when the way that you write your dates out.
You can call it Z a Z?
Yeah. Better not see your toilet spin the other way. And the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions released on December 17th of that same year. The idea for Untitled Goose Game. And by the way, this is mostly Wikipedia synopsis of the game, but there is a great video that I watched about the history called How Untitled Goose Game Was Made and Inspired by Hitman. This is from the YouTube channel That Guy Glenn. If you'd like to watch the video, listeners, I'll have it in the citations section at the very bottom of the show notes. But the idea for this game originated from a stock photograph of a goose that a House employee posted in the company's internal communications, literally on Slack. And it's something that I don't know if anybody else saw this or brushed up on this history. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? But it's something that just kept tickling the developers, and they decided at a certain point, the video dives into it more, that a goose made for an interesting subject for a video game. Hearn, I sort of saw you possibly even nodding your head this way. Is this something you were aware of?
A little bit, yeah. The Slack thing where it was, I think it went, because I think even before it got picked up officially by Panic, like this went a little viral on Twitter or something.
It may have.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing something, and then like it went viral. Like the idea of it happened like years before, like you were saying. So yeah, I just remember like some vague thing, and I forgot about it, and then this is bringing it back.
Okay, cool. I'm sure you're glad I called you out of seeing you just nod politely.
No, it's all good.
This game also had some inspiration. A couple of titles that were cited by the creative team were Super Mario 64 for allegedly the creative and expressive moveset of Mr. Plumber himself in that game, and also the Hitman series, and with the desire to create small moments of mischief and give you a little bit of creativity as to how you might solve a problem or go through a checklist. House worked on combining stealth mechanics with a lack of violence to create humorous in-game scenarios. The art style was inspired by children's TV programs from the UK, such as Postman Pat, Fireman Sam, and Brum, none of which I had
Those are
ever
all
heard.
so British sounding.
Aren't they? Especially Brum. And I just never heard of any of these.
You could have made up Brum, and I would fully believe you.
Yes, and hey,
Could also be a food.
Yes.
Eat your Brum.
Yeah, and it's like the most bland tasting thing you've ever had.
We
sorry.
love Brum. Sorry, British people.
British people and Australia just catching strays in this episode.
Nah, they deserve it. They deserve it.
Yeah. The townsfolk in this game were inspired by the faceless townspeople from Thomas the Tank Engine. The game's unusual name came from a last-minute decision in preparing the title as an entry for a games festival. I believe it was actually a showcase, and where they were making a trailer for the game, had to submit a title for it, and instead of just typing Goose Game and pigeonholing themselves, they put Untitled Goose Game, and after this, the preview and the trailer went so viral, they ended up just sticking with it. The music, curated by composer Dan Golding, uses short clips from 6 of Claude Debussy's, forgive me the pronunciation, preludes. It has been described as reactive music because the clips are played after certain actions. Yeah, it's sort of a dynamic music system where, based on movement, proximity, context, all that sort of things, the music can pick up or in intensity or speed up or slow down.
It's like freeform jazz piano.
Yes.
A little bit.
Very like polite, I might even describe, melodic, like a non-intrusive piano. Untitled Goose Game received very positive reviews, with critics praising its gameplay and humor. The game received the DICE Award for Game of the Year and the GDC Award for Game of the Year as well, among other accolades. Dan Golding was nominated for an ARIA Award for the music, and by the end of 2019, so 5 years ago, Untitled Goose Game had sold more than 1 million copies. I'd be curious to hear how many it's sold now, because as we know, I've contributed twice to this bad boy, and so have a couple of us.
We could easily assume it's 2 million now.
Yeah, true, at the very least. Yeah, this game has really stayed, especially for someone who never played it, it's one that I have never forgotten about. And there really is something to just like I don't want to call it the viral nature, because it was maybe just happenstance that the image of the goose and its mischief went viral, but yeah, it very much stuck in my mind and many people's, so I think it's probably done pretty well over the years. As far as history and context, folks, did any of you have something you wanted to include before we finally move on to our experience with the title?
I do just want to say that I do think obviously these types of like games existed before, but I really feel like it was the catalyst to like cozy indies taking off. Like obviously, like I said, I know they already existed. I play a lot of indie games. Please don't come at me. But I do think that it really brought in like a whole nother like audience kind of, and like I don't know. I just feel like ever since then, cozy indie is like it's a hot thing, and I think this is one of the things that really kicked it off was the success of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I was starting to see more stuff around that time, or even more, way more so now. So there's probably some truth to that for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this kicking it off and then going into 2020 immediately the next year. Like I remember like that's like when like Wholesome Direct kicked off, I think, and like some of these other like indie showcases like helping even because like you said, these games have always been around. They were never as like brought to the forefront until between this game and then like the next year, like, being such a big thing, like, okay, we need to promote all these cool games, these indie artists need help. And we all needed something to take our mind off what was going on that year. It's kind of like a perfect storm of, getting cool, cozy indie games, seen by people now, not just hidden away in Steam to never be picked up,
Totally.
Unless you're Connor.
What'd you say?
I said, unless you're Connor, where it will just sit in your Steam.
Yes. I know. To be fair, I think I bought it at the end of last year, knowing that I was gonna play this for the series this year, and just completely forgot until I was going through my receipts for the year, and there it was the purchase. Well, I found the purchase.
Mr. Responsible over here.
Oh yeah, I'm so financially secure and responsible. Now that we've even been talking, I wanted to jump on that last point and sort of add and say that there's probably the Switch, being in its second full, being at least 2.5 years old by the time this game came out, maybe had something to do with it. It was a place that a lot of people were discovering. Surely myself was like playing games that I would have never played before, for whatever reason, so that probably had something to do with it. Another fun little anecdote is that this game released on this same day that The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the remake, came out. And apparently after like a very short amount of time, this game was outselling it on the eShop. Probably because people like myself... actually, I bought it digitally. A lot of people bought it physically, as they do those big Nintendo titles, but... at least for a minute, it had its claim to fame. And I wonder if it still might... I'm asking questions like, questions that I could have looked up before the podcast, but who cares? All right, I'll go ahead and shift us over to the main discussion of the episode. First things first, I would love to start with Kristin today. Kristin, going to put you on the spot a little bit. When you think about this game... what is an aspect of it that you want to discuss today? What is like at the forefront of your mind?
Well, there's two things. I'm going to cheat. The first is that I have to own up to being a little bit of a hater, because I remember really liking this when it came out. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, I don't know. I really try not to be this person, and I don't vocally do it, but in my head sometimes, like The Office, where it's like, I really liked The Office. I watched it all as it aired. And then now that it's become so oversaturated, like Office memes and stuff, you're a little bit like, oh, The Office.
Never. That would never happen. I don't know. I don't understand a word you're saying right now.
I had a little bit of that with Untitled Goose Game, where I was a little bit like, all right, yeah, Untitled Goose Game. We get it, but when I was replaying it, a little bit of it, I was like, no, I did love this game. I do love this game. I like this. And part of it is just like, there's a couple of things. One, that music, I forgot about the music factor, that like when you're interacting with people, like the music changes. And I love it's the Hitman comparison. It really put off like a light bulb in my brain, because I love playing the Hitman games, but I love playing them wrong. I've never listened to a context clue in Hitman ever. I have never listened to the intel you're supposed to gather. I am seeing if I can chuck a knife through the door and then close it fast enough that nobody around knows that I threw the knife through the door. And so
it's almost like a sandbox for you.
It literally, yeah.
I just think it sounds like you're playing the Hitman games.
Yeah.
Right. Just so you know.
So I love, like, basically I love trying to brute force stuff, and it makes it even funnier in Untitled Goose Game when you're trying to do stuff wrong and then you get caught and the music's like, like, ah! So I love that. And then also, like, I love the Katamari games. And these games don't play anything like Katamari. Aesthetically, they don't look really anything like Katamari. I guess maybe the people are, like, their facelessness is a little similar, but
Sure.
But I don't know, they just kind of give off the same vibe to me, where you're just there to have, like, a silly fun time. And I don't know, those are the things that I think of when I think of it. Is just I love getting to goof off,
Yes.
get to goose off, and run around and be annoying. If there's one thing I love to do, it's be annoying in a game. Like,
Yeah,
I grew up playing Counter-Strike, baby. I love being annoying.
Well, this game sure gives us the opportunity to do that. Like, I mean, I guess the point maybe I'll jump off of to open up the discussion first is your second one. We should definitely circle back to the music more. But yeah, the sort of like I'm like hesitant to describe it as like a full-on creative like sandbox to do whatever you want, and at least when it comes to solving the tasks that you have in this game to progress. There is plenty to do, plenty to interact with, and plenty of fun to be had that is not in line with the goal. It's sort of like, I wouldn't necessarily say that this game has like emergent gameplay systems that are in place that, oh my gosh, did you know if you put the fire on a tree, it'll burn the tree, and then that'll have a domino effect. But this game does have certain aspects that when paired together can be fun. And I think those aspects a lot of time are just whatever you feel like playing with. Like, I had a moment in this game, which I might complain about later, but I'll bring it up to make a totally different point now, where in the second area with the little lady's shop and the boy by what I can only assume is like his parent or some adult's little TV electronics store, I had dragged her broom all the way away from her, and like I put it in the door of the phone booth, and then I scared the kid to run in there and shut it. It did literally nothing in the game. It didn't break the broom, which is one of the goals, and I was kind of annoyed by that. I was like, I feel like that broom should be breaking right now. But it still tickled me that was like something you could do, and seeing the broom just sticking out all silly. So yeah, like, I think the point I'm trying to make is I actually was, and I'd love to hear what you all have to say, I was wanting a hair more creativity in this game as far as puzzle solutions go. I know that some allow for multiple, but, and maybe it's just that I, again, playing this for the first time and wasn't creative enough, but there's still ways to make fun with the creativity, and the creativity being your own little mischievous imagination. Garrett, I see you sort of politely nodding in agreement. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put you on the
Everybody
spot.
stop shaking their heads.
He might call on you.
No, I mean, I was just nodding in agreement. Yeah, I have, as much as it was fun to explore all the different ways, like, or just all of the different little adventures within this game, all the little like fun little like puzzles and stuff, and mess around with this world where there's a lot you can interact with. Not all of it necessarily has anything to do with progressing the story. You know, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you can come over here and move this stuff around and do that, but it's not going to do anything. But as far as the puzzles, yeah, what I was nodding is just agreeing with the fact that, yeah, I think that's, I don't know if we're talking gripes right now at the moment, but I was
gripes anytime, pal.
I guess I was anticipating there being more solutions to most puzzles, but really most of the puzzles, there's kind of like one solution. The only one that has a different solution would be like, obviously this seemed like every area had a task where it's like, oh, collect a bunch of items and just bring them somewhere, like to a picnic blanket or whatever. And obviously like, you can drag those items over in any order and from any direction, but is that really a different way to solve it? I don't know, I guess. So that was one thing I was kind of like, oh, it's charming and like cute as these interactions are, and this little world that you're dealing with and trying to figure out how to solve the puzzles. I guess I was, you know, that's one thing I'm like, oh, it would have been cool if there was like you were saying, like I didn't quite do that with the broom, but I was just struggling to think of another puzzle off the top of my head. But yeah, like, okay, yeah, if you could break the broom in a different way, like, yeah, stick it in the door of the phone box or something, or who knows, like, I don't know, stick it in the river and, you know, drop something on it. I don't know. There's definitely opportunity. I think they could have had a little things spread out a little more, but it doesn't take away from the charm of this game. That's for sure. Like, it still was very much a fun little process to go through.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there was just enough moments in this game, like a couple of them where I was like, where I felt like I was on this middle ground between really enjoying the one solution that there was, because I would say for the most part, much of the game was intuitive. And I'll even say I love how I think it's designed so well to put you, the goose, in the right situations to where you're not going to be scratching your head too much throughout the game to find the solution. The fun in this game, of course, is the solutions to the puzzles, but a lot of the fun is seeing the result of some of them. Some of them, like Garrett, you're talking about, I think you're referring to the go shopping little task in the second area. And we don't really see like some results, but we do get a little strike through of the item on our check mark. But others, like when you watch someone buy back something from the store,
it's hilarious.
That you get a whole scene on display. Yeah. And yeah, I thought that was very fun. But as we're sort of talking about the like creativity or / like puzzle solving in this world, I want to say the listeners probably know because they probably played it, or I know we described the game earlier, but essentially you in this game go to 5 different little areas with a set of tasks to complete, and before you can move on from those areas, you need to complete your little list, which can be found by pressing a certain button on your controller depending on where you're playing. For the Switch, it's the minus button. And once you do all of them, you usually get like one final task in order to open up the way to the next little area. I almost describe them as vignettes, and they're just vignettes with like story that you can sort of make up yourself, or like gaps you can fill in. So much to talk about already. Hearn, I'll turn to you. Yep. Is there anything that like the three of us have sort of been describing already, as far as, you know, going through the world, the mischief, the puzzle solving, that you want to talk about while we're here?
Sure. I mean, 2 things is just like, yeah, I agree that there are more limitations than, say, a Hitman or something where the logic is like more straightforward, more telling you what you need to do. Kind of the fun element of it that I think is kind of very intent to the whole idea of the Untitled Goose Game is that to annoy is kind of the general verb. Oh.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Would you start that sentence over after you said Hitman? We lost you for a moment there, bud.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what that was.
You're all good.
Yeah, maybe it was a goose.
One's wriggling on your internet router.
Something just scratched off that said unplug the motor.
Bastard. Yeah. No, there's like, I get that like the logic elements of it, like what you guys were saying is correct about like it's more limited than like a Hitman or it's more in line with almost a LucasArtsy adventure game where there's kind of like a solution that like works for most people, or you can solve it that way, or it's intended that way. But kind of the fun and I think ambition of the Untitled Goose Game is that to annoy is just the general vibe of your goals. It's like, it's never like, and then you do this other puzzle solving thing to solve this way. It's like, no, you're upsetting someone in the process. You're annoying people.
That's true.
In the process. And it's always a fun little element. And just to touch a little bit on the like playing it with another person, because I have to admit I wasn't really going to like replay this game probably, even though like Steam has achievements and hidden stuff.
I'm proud of you
like,
for
you can
admitting
do
that
it
on the pod, Hearn.
Thank you. It's a failing of mine. But when I replayed it with Kelsey a little bit and we were 2 geese doing the things, I found us accidentally doing stuff in the process. Like in the first area, there was like an achievement I never got before where we locked the gardener out of their own garden, which, you know, it's not the most like there's more imaginative like hidden achievements that I mean, and it's not one that like takes too much to figure out. But with 2Ds, it's a lot easier. And we just did it by happenstance. Kelsey was just like, he's annoying us. Let's take him out. And like did it on her own accord. And I ran in with her and we locked the gardener out. And that was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way in my own head. Seeing it through fresh eyes helped a little bit with the fun of that could be had in this.
Totally. And I think that you may have, so forgive me if you've already said this, but that I believe is one of the sort of hidden like tasks that you can do that pops up on a separate sheet, which that's the only one I actually completed. The rest of them I was like, I don't know what they are. And it turns out a lot of them are just like, essentially, can you speed run this level before a certain time? But anyway, sorry, Hearn.
No, it's that, and I don't know how you would find them out on the Switch version without just looking them up, but on Steam at least you could, or, you know, consoles that have achievements, you could probably look up all the hidden achievements and look them up. And then that could be like an additional thing you can do. But yeah, I mean, there's charm to it that like oversees the whole proceedings. Like, even though like the vignettes are kind of like their own separate environments that you're playing with, there is kind of an arc almost, or there is like ascension in what you've learned from the previous areas where you're like, I know how to annoy one person. How does it feel to annoy 2 people or 3 people, or like this whole community that has like a minor ecosystem to it.
Yeah, it's so funny how like annoying someone, I would feel like a satisfaction of whether it's taking something that they don't want you to take, or just getting out of the grasp of someone by ducking under like a table or something. Even just that, I would get a little joy of being a little stinker about. So much fun. I want to turn to Kristin in a second too about to give her a chance to talk about more gameplay stuff if it comes up. But it made me think, Hearn, too, that I sort of was like grappling with how I was playing this game in a few ways, being my first one, which is interesting because my approach to it, as soon as I got that, I didn't know there was going to be a list in this game, but as soon as I got the list, I found myself so motivated to, of course, solve all those puzzles because that's how you progress through the game. But I also was finding myself trying to find the secret ones, like I had mentioned. And instead of finding the fun in annoying, being a stinker, making silly organic things happen, at first I was like finding disappointment in things like me doing things that I felt like should have unlocked a little achievement, which thankfully my mindset sort of shifted because that was not a fun way to play the game. And it was just sort of an organic thing once I let go of that. I really did a lot of like inner self work on this, playing this game, and I'm glad you all can hear me talk about it. But one of the funniest things, biggest kicks that I got out of the game, or moment that did not have an achievement, and it was the moment that flipped me over to being like, but that was still so fun and silly, and I'm glad it happened, was in that second area again, the boy's kicking around. He's like a soccer ball over there. I was able to get the person to come out of the shop, try to help the boy, and I had positioned the soccer ball in a way to where I like kick it over into the shop that they have, the electronic shop, and it's got this like sort of like checkered flag, almost like racing flag pattern on the doorstep of that. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're signaling to me that that's the goal, even though that's not what it looks like in soccer.
That's not what the soccer field looks like.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a big net. But so first I get this thing in there, nothing pops up on the screen. I have a moment of disappointment, but then I realize I like just had this epiphany that I had so much fun doing it, and this is so cheesy, but I was like, well, aren't I doing it for the fun and not the achievement? So silly, but it did help me sort of approach this game in a different way and enjoy those little moments more that weren't successes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's how like kids play games, or like we did as kids, and it's like, yeah, like it's kind of fun that like you can get back to that.
Yeah, I'm really just trying to get in touch with my inner child, folks. We really need it in this world. Kristin, I know you jumped us off into this discussion of the gameplay, the creativity. Were there moments in this game that you wanted to highlight, or aspects of it when it comes to the gameplay?
I didn't get back to this part when I was replaying it, but when I was thinking about the game, the thing that stands out the most to me is there's like a neighbors, like right there. Isn't there like a backyard where there's these neighbors, and they're like, you kind of make them feud. by
yes.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stands out to me as something that I remember being like, ha, hell yeah.
I think that's my favorite area. I was going to say that's like one of my favorite areas. It is so good.
Yeah. So I just think it's a cool little idea to like. So you're annoying, but what if people don't realize that it's you're being annoying? You know,
Yes.
like, yeah, it's, and I do agree that like, yeah, some of the puzzle solutions are pretty rigid. Like that the little boy, I was trying to make him bend down to pick something up so that I could steal his glasses right off his face, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
But I think you mentioning the fact that it was on Switch, like, yeah, I played it on Switch originally, and I think that was helpful for me because I was not checking for achievements.
Nice.
And I normally, like, I will fully play something on Steam or PS5 instead if it has achievements. But at the time, there was no other option. So
Yes.
I think that's probably part of why it was just like, yeah, let's just goof around. And plus, like, you know, like the shopping for the go shopping achievement, it's like, yeah, I grabbed what I needed, but then she's annoying me because she keeps taking my stuff back and putting it on the shelf. So then guess what? I'm taking all this stuff I don't need and I'm dropping it. I'm
Yes.
dropping it everywhere. Take that. So I like that there was stuff in there that you could do that you didn't necessarily have to, just for funsies.
Yeah. That was fun too. I sort of started looking at those things as like, it was like another tool set that we had of, and oftentimes that was a common one I felt like that I used, which was, yeah, scattering like her fruits and veggies around or moving her broom somewhere to get her away just for long enough for me to go shopping and get the loo paper, for example.
Which, by the way, don't buy this lady's carrots that are rolling around on the ground and then she's just putting them back in the basket.
Yeah. So we're doing more. Are we just a little stinker, or are we ruining people's lives? Big question here. Which is probably something we'll talk about a bunch. I wanted to say too, on that note as well, we talked about these little vignettes and how we don't get necessarily explicit story told to us in this game. We don't hear conversations. We see like interactions happen, but they are essentially people miming and they're silent. The only word that's uttered in this whole game is a honk. Which is in its own right is such a funny choice by the developer. But the comedy that comes from sometimes intentional, like scripted stuff like Kristin was talking about, if you can, like when you get the man to break the vase or whatever, and then you see a scripted moment between them play out, or other little maybe more of the Hitman nature of this game, of making certain things happen to cause chaos or fun with these systems is really great. I know Garrett and Kristin, you sort of highlighted that little backyard as a favorite moment. Hearn, did you have a vignette or a spot that really stuck out to you?
I mean, I didn't get to this playthrough, but I think the thing that always stuck out about me on my first playthrough, like completely, is I was just like, how is this going to resolve as a game? And there is kind of a circular logic of the arc of the finality of it, where you realize, oh, this wasn't just like one day a Goose got up and decided to be a little stinker and mess up. It's almost like this has been going on. This is what geese do in this place, and this is what people are used to, and this isn't the first time. And I thought that was a funny touch of like, because also the game isn't technically over then. You can always replay and do anything you missed. You can do more. You can figure out the secret checklist options. But it is just that funny touch of like the humor of it being not only have you just been wrecking everyone's day, it's also probably like, no, you've been like everyone's bane of their existence.
Yes. Like they didn't put up these no goose signs today.
Yes. No. This has been a general philosophy. And yeah, I mean, I remember experiencing that at the time and thought that was like, that's a good way to go about this idea of it's not just the one vignettes you can do. Because obviously, like, it's only so limited in the vignettes too, but it's like that funny idea almost opens up the world to it. But yeah, like, I think just like, yeah, like the parts where the vignettes really get cooking to me, again, are after the first area where there's more than one thing interacting with one another. And it kind of becomes... like not two geese, one stone, I guess you could say, where you have a solution that kind of uses more than one element into a means where it sets up the next solution. And that's, I mean, that's good game design a little bit. That's kind of what we hope for in like good platformers or good games where you're like, I was able to achieve this because I know of this other mechanic, but instead it's how you annoy people specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, just there is so much fun to be had, especially, the more that they stack on, the more people there are, the more, hoops you have to sort of jump through in order to make something happen or solve something, is the more fun it can get. And sometimes the more obviously the more challenging, because they are sort of like onboarding you like any game of you start with the 1, you move to 2, and then there's multiple moving parts. In particular, as far as moments go, the place I spent the most time and really, really struggled with one solution in particular, but almost felt even more satisfied by it, was the sort of like pub area, which they might even refer to it as that. Pub, yeah. It's a little restaurant that's got like a little outdoor space. And I love there too, it challenges you in so many ways to not only figure out how to get in there. I can't believe we haven't even brought up Metal Gear so far on this. But the goose has its sort of Solid Snake moment of hiding in a box and being transported, which I'm sure Mr. Morlang will appreciate.
It's fantastic. Love it.
But I love that area in particular, of all the moving parts, and the most, I would say the most opaque puzzles really stood out to me too, of seeing this sort of like living world and area and how I could disrupt that. There were definitely, I will say that area too is one area where I really actually felt like a dick. Like messing with the old man in particular, I was like, why do I gotta mess with this poor guy? Just he's clearly alone. He's like, at least the 2 ladies are like having lunch or a conversation together. This guy's alone. But having him break his dartboard, messing with, I even like, you don't have to do this, but I like stole all of his rings just because I was like, what if that's something? And then I felt really bad about it, so I brought him back.
Oh my gosh. Torture this poor man.
Truly, poor guy.
I like how you're like, I hate that I have to do this, but I'm going to do extra just in case.
Yes.
Just in case.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, it was such a funny, is that what they refer to? That might be what they say when there's ludonarrative dissonance, or at least like an element of that is like me feeling like I don't want to do this, and yet I am trying to finish the game, so I'm going to do it. Similar to last month's game that we covered here on the co-op series was Papers, Please. And at first when I'm playing that game, I was being, nice to everyone, so gentle. I was like not worried about my citations. And of course, the game ends pretty quick if you start getting more citations. So you really get in, not to dip into last month's episode, but it really warps your brain. You're just playing a game, but if you take a step back, it really warped my brain as to like how I'm operating in this like, sort of like this like fascist sort of society and being an arm of that. Anyway, Untitled Goose Game.
I just want to say, if you go to a Papers, Please situation and it's a goose behind the gates, don't let him take your papers, because you're going to get sent to the gulag no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
That would just be that goose's MO.
Although I would like to see the goose making like sort of like Nazi, not that they're not Nazis in the game, but Nazis' lives tougher. That would be really fun.
Let him annoy the fascists. That would be a good Untitled Goose Game scene.
Yes.
I was gonna say they're kind of like foils of one another, these games.
True.
Yes, in a way, yeah. But yeah, there's so much. So that pub area I just wanted to highlight as one that like I really felt like my brain was like really working to find these solutions, and I actually, that was one too where, not to bring up another complaint, and but I'm gonna do it anyway. One of the solutions there is to set the table, and I kind of flip-flopped on how I felt about this moment as well, kind of like the previous one of kicking the soccer ball through the goal. There's an area, especially for those of you who've played it recently, right next to the ladies who are having lunch. It's the area where you stand and you have to imitate them with your wings, your honks, your posture, and they give you the flower. I was looking, I thought, like everywhere for a table to set up. And of course, all the tables are a little too high for you to actually put stuff on. But I found this little, sewer drain that was raised nicely, and I could put things on it. And I was at first I was like so annoyed that like that didn't count as a solution. Then I make my way to the back, and it's so obvious in retrospect, but they've got a little, like, tablecloth put over this, like, wooden wheel that is obviously the place you're supposed to do that. So at first I was, like, annoyed with the game, and then I was annoyed at myself for missing the obvious. Just
I was
so
just saying that might be on you, because if you want to eat off the sewer grate,
Yeah.
you're under evaluation.
Yeah, what does that say about me? I mean, we've been talking about this sort of aspect for a while, because it feels like the real engine of the game is the goofiness, the creativity, the puzzle solving. Garrett, I want to turn to you now. Is there an aspect of the game that we haven't discussed that you want to bring up, or something you want to underline?
I mean, we've talked about a lot of it so far. We kind of touched on the music a little bit, but I just want to highlight it again, kind of circle back around, talk more about it. Because, there's just so many moments where I don't know. I love how subtle it is in general, like throughout the whole game. Like it's never like super in your face. But then when you do notice it, it's like so perfect. There's so many times I'm not noticing it, and then it's just the perfect little accent for like, oh, you find something, and it even has a little like do like a little like oh, okay, yes. Like you know, like almost like a light bulb moment, but it's like in the way the musical chord progression goes and stuff. And then same thing when you're like meddling with people and causing chaos and stuff. Like the fact that it's so reactive to you, and tempo changing, and you know the intensity of it changing, getting more or less intense, and depending on how close you are to the danger or how far away. Like even that going into the gameplay, because there's so many times I'm like being chased, carrying something. I'm keep going. I gotta get away, and it's like it's slowly getting quieter. I'm like, okay, because keep going until the music goes away. And I don't know, it's just such a fantastic mechanic for like, again, such a simple game. Was even though some of the puzzles were simple, and you know, the graphics are simple and everything is so simple, but then to have this kind of like more complex take for music, I feel like, you know, like that's usually in a lot of games, it's like, all right, there's a soundtrack and that's it. Like when this happens, it triggers the certain song and then that's it. But to have such a dynamic soundtrack that really does correlate almost 1-to-1 to what you're doing in the game is so cool and so brilliant. So yeah, I just wanted to wheel around back to that and touch on it again, because was so special and so much fun. And I even and one other thing, touch back on something else we talked about. Well, you guys were joking about a sequel. I want to know, or what do you guys think about this? The sequel being you have to steal, I guess spoilers for the end of the game, stealing the big bell from that lady's yard, right? I feel like that's the logical next step in my head. Like you steal the little bell at the end of the game. Why not steal the big bell in the lady's backyard and have to get that back? I don't know. Is that the backyard where the model tower is built is based off of? Or did I miss this? Well, because so in the neighbors that fight like that, you take back, like there's that big bell, because one of the tasks is like make the guy spit his tea out, and so you're sitting there with the bell and like waiting for him to take a sip of his tea, and you hit the bell and he spits because it, you know, it's so loud next to him. So yeah, when you go to the model town, like it's there, but you pass it, and you like the one you pick up is in some castle, like it's in an area you don't actually go to in the town in the game in real life. But I was like, oh, I think we need to go big for number 2. You know, you got the little bell in this game. Next time we're going for the big bell in the neighbor's yard. Goose is buff. Steal the Liberty Bell. Steal the Liberty Bell. Oh gosh, if only. It runs into the gang from It's Always Sunny. What's that? What's the mascot for the hockey team there? Gritty. Gritty. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Love the idea. On the music point, Garrett. Yeah, there's so much to be said about it. It's so, I think I described it as polite earlier. I might describe its like resting state as pleasant. And often I feel like there are plenty of moments in this game when there isn't music, but it does, by the dynamic nature, it does clue you in as to when you've found something you need, or gets a little, not going to describe it as bombastic, but it definitely heightens when you're in a dangerous moment or being chased off, or it's a moment of intensity, I would say. Yeah, it was just lovely. It does something. Did anybody else here play Cocoon from 2023? Yes.
Yeah.
Kristin, highly recommend it. I
have a recommendation for you after this.
Ooh, it's a completely different game. Well, it is a isometric puzzle solving game with dynamic music, so maybe they're not too different. But it also is sort of like, I listened to a wonderful interview with the I believe the composer on, maybe it was Game Maker's Toolkit, the podcast, when it came out, and they talked about how this is something I didn't pick up on until I was done with the game or even listened to the show. But he talks about how they would you would just feel when you were on the right track to a solution in that game, and that's because they were doing slightly different things with the music when that would happen. Whoa. And this is a different use of that dynamic music, but I saw a lot in common as far as just the intention of that use. So I love that. What is it? But I'm gonna touch on two more music things, Kristin. But did you want to say the recommendation? Or
yeah. So how on the main show you always have your 3 recommendations, where you might, if you like this music thing in Untitled Goose Game, then I recommend to you the PlayStation Move game. I don't remember if it was PS3 or PS4, called Johann Sebastian Joust. Have you ever played that?
Not in my life.
Fellow frequent flyer on the pod, Mike Steele, and I had a friend group that would play it sometimes. And so you'd have the PlayStation Move controllers, and there's classical music playing, and it slows down and speeds up, and that's your movement tolerance. So if the music is playing slow, you can barely move, and as it speeds up, you can move a little more, and you're trying to knock other people out, basically. When it starts moving really fast, you are trying to push other people over so they move their controller and get knocked out and be the last one standing. It's so fun. It's such a niche, nobody ever has played it besides this group of people I apparently played with. But that's also it's loosely related, but it does, that goose mechanic does remind.
What's the title again?
Johann Sebastian Joust.
Now I'm just going to have a fixation on it, so thank you.
I just need to shout out, I thought Untitled Goose Game was one of the best game titles of all time. Johann Sebastian Joust.
That's pretty good.
Dethroned it.
It's pretty great.
The other 2 music things I wanted to say was that the other day I picked up my save to keep playing, and my girlfriend was working at her desk behind me, and she was going to continue, put on a podcast or something, or she had put it on. And when I started playing this game, she had heard the music before she was playing it herself. She was like, "Oh, actually, I'll just listen to this while I work." And so I thought that was a fun, cute moment where she was like, "No, I'm going to listen to this pleasant music." And the other thing, which this is more of a moment, but music accompanied both of these things. I wouldn't say that I have a emotional attachment to this game, but there were 2 moments where the music, coupled with, I guess, some action, made me almost emotional. The beginning of the game, where once you get out of the little tutorial area where you're learning your moves, and you sort of just get in the water and glide along the water, I think the title might come up there or something. Mm-hmm. That moment really struck me because the music does come in, and something about it got me really excited, and I just felt so calm. And the other moment was at the very end of the game when you drop the bell into the pit of bells, which I had seen before and completely forgotten about because I had explored that area. And the title music starts playing and the game credits roll. I almost got choked up, and I didn't think I had an attachment to this game at all. It was the same feeling that I felt. I realized a comparison point today on my drive home. This is going to sound insane. It was the closest to I felt since I played Ghost of Tsushima, where the title sequence plays when you're riding the horse through the field of the beautiful flowers are flowing everywhere and the wind's going. And I know that was such a huge moment that people wouldn't shut up about when that game came out because it was so just moving and emotional and the music's so bombastic. I realized it was the same thing happening to me. What is wrong with me?
It's really a lot like Tsutaki Dane, Final Fantasy X. We're under the water.
It's exactly the same. But I was surprised, and I think I want, as best as I can, make a connection now. I think that had something to do with with just the use of the music, and I don't know if it's that they were conservative with it, but it was used in the perfect spots and just brought something out of me.
You gotta
Yeah.
play Grease. You gotta play Grease. Have you played that? GRIS, Grease?
I haven't played it.
It's an indie game. If you need to fill a slot and you like games that make you emotional through specifically their use of music, that game had me weeping.
It's a
based
Oh my
only
goodness.
on like music, basically. Based music and
visually
environmental
beautiful
storytelling.
too. Yeah.
Wow. But I know we've been
Untitled
talking
Grease
about.
game.
Yeah, there we go. Any other music thoughts before we maybe pivot topics? I know I kind of just talked for a while there.
I'll just say that when I did play it with Kelsey a little bit, I think the reactive music helps a good amount for like the aimless guiding nature
Yes.
of the game. The idea of like, oh, I must be doing something or I must be on the right path in some way because there's something auditorially going on that's signifying that is like a very, especially like a game that like is trying to have you solve a puzzle that's kind of obtuse is like, that's a clever
Yes.
touch. That's like, it's not handholdy because it's obviously like, you're not necessarily solving things. You could just be causing chaos, but it is like you're doing something. There's like an immediate synapses reward, I guess.
Sure.
And yeah, I think that helps just with the co-op too. And obviously in co-op, someone else might be causing the music, you're not, and that might that alone might cause some like fun
sure.
in like, the co-op experience.
I love that. That's great. You talking about the music and the reactive nature of it. I know it's been coming up a lot the last few minutes because we're on the subject, but it reminded me too of, I know I had complained about some of the limited puzzle solutions earlier, but I want to give the game a little flowers in another area when it comes to the gameplay, and that is that I get frustrated in games when there are like mechanics or ways to do things that work through most of the game, but then in a certain moment the game, the way it's designed, whether it's a boss battle or a run of something where it's like, actually you're not going to be able to use that thing that you normally do because it didn't work the way we designed it, so we're going to bar you from that. The one example I'm thinking of is like in RPG battles, this came up on Hot Gamer Takes Her in the Lost episode, where I hate when you have abilities that you can use that you're using all game, and then you get in a battle, and then the boss is just like impervious to a bunch of stuff, like, oh, bosses can't be poisoned in this game or whatnot. I know that's a different sort of thing here, but I love this game because at the very end, when I'm escaping with the bell and I was trying to outrun the farmer, I had almost nowhere to go, but you know that little area with the right outside his garden. Maybe he's a gardener, not a farmer. There's an area right outside of his garden.
What is a garden but a tiny farm?
Kristin, you're asking the right questions today. I was just so thrilled that even though I had the bell, I could still duck under this little bar. So I like led him around there, ducked under, and made my final escape. And it was a small thing, but I felt like that happened to me throughout the game, whereas the things continued to function within the rules that they had set, and I just appreciated that. Outside of the sort of climax of the end of the game, which maybe it's almost a good time to transition to that. Actually, I know what I want to talk about. Hearn, I don't think I've really given you the platform. I know we talked about your co-op experience with Kelsey a little bit, but is there any other co-op like details that you noticed or things you wanted to share today?
I mean, I'll confess we didn't play for the entire game too, because I mean, part of it too with two people, especially when one person, Kelsey, doesn't know not to throw her under the bus. But when one person like hasn't had when like one person isn't like ready for this type of like free flowing, like I mean, like I said, I brought up LucasArts, so I'm kind of used to like a little bit of obtuse, think outside the box for these type of games. And I think that frustrated Kelsey a little bit more than like just having the fun of like you said, the freeform fun of like, what if I just could annoy everything everywhere all at once. But yeah, like what little we did in it was fun to like see how the world reacts when there's more than one Goose going on at the same time, because that's not necessarily the narrative of the Untitled Goose Game. That's just like a byproduct, but it is fun to like, because like it made certain parts easier, it made even some parts a little more difficult, because sometimes you can only have so much of the world you can see through those cameras. Like the first part was very easy with Two Goose, with the gardener, because you could easily distract him, and then someone else could easily take the thing that he no longer has eyes on to like a different area, and that solved like almost all our problems. But then with the ecosystem of the kid and the shop lady, it became, we do have to plan it more. We have to like, because we can't just be on separate realms because the map can only like see so much of it at one time. So
it's almost become it takes two in a way, where when you're solo, you're like, all right, I've got it all mapped out in my brain, I'll just go execute. But when you're working in tandem with someone, I would imagine that there's just more coordination that's required.
And it was especially tough because in our living room, we committed to the idea that we would also only communicate in Honks. So it was very difficult to explain what we were thinking about doing. No, but yeah, that did make it a little trickier at that point to like cross off stuff, even though like I had remembered some of the solutions from before. And even then, like some of those, like just having two geese added wrinkles to that of like, how do I solve this like puzzle that I kind of knew how to do as one person, but now with two different geese in tandem, like how can I plot that out? And yeah, we didn't get past too much more, but like from that little experience, I'm like, I see the merit in that. It's almost like I don't like the other co-op I would compare it to, just to throw out another one that I think you'll appreciate, is Portal 2.
I thought you might.
Where that one is definitely you gotta communicate what you're doing with your partner to like solve the puzzle, because it's not just knowing the solution, it's also that communication is very important.
Big time. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was even thinking as you were talking about the Portal series, because I'm like, oh, I could see this like as a game like the first Portal, especially, which is can be really short if you know what you're doing. One that I just go through again, pick up to just blast through the puzzles and have a little fun in a sitting or so. All right, before I think we close things out and maybe talk about the end of the game, then do some closing thoughts, Garrett and Kristin, and Hearn, this is open to you too. Is there anything we haven't discussed, a little aspect about the game, a moment, a piece of art that you want to highlight before we sort of close the narrative on the Untitled Goose Game?
Well, I know everyone was wondering why we went from Half-Life 1 to Half-Life 2 to this, and I think we've all forgotten to talk about when you go to Ravenholm in that one level. Do you remember that one? And they had the drag. I do. You had to steal the head crabs and put them in the water to give them a bath or whatever. I don't know. That was kind of weird, but other than that.
Likewise, in Half-Life 2, I am like a goose, just carrying those blades around, throwing my way through
with the gravity gun
the whole time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just shooting them and stuff.
Even on this replay of Half-Life 2, I've still not done Ravenholm not with the gravity gun. Like I've not just run and gunned. Yep. I've only done gravity gun for the achievements or whatever. Yeah, and it's for some reason they know that and they designed that level to be fun with that. But yeah,
and it is goose behavior.
It sure is. Speaking of, I mean, it's funny because Half-Life is in the news because they released that like RTX demo or something, which I haven't touched, but. Speaking of Ravenholm, people were like putting Ravenholm in the daytime. Anyway, Half-Life, it's still out there. We had a connection and we made it thanks to Garrett. Kristin, any final like things we didn't touch on in the game that you were hoping to?
No, I think I'm. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a good game, but it's pretty simple. You know, you can't really beat it to death.
Yeah. The last thing too, which we've hinted at, but I really did like the final mission in the game when you arrive at the town of miniatures, where you there was something I don't know, comforting about walking through each, essentially like these miniature villages, the miniature village rather, of each of the little vignettes that you have walked through, from the garden to the shops to the neighbors, the pub. I might even be forgetting one, but it was so cute. And then to reach the tower and to find that once you can knock this thing down, you sort of just peck out and destroy this thing that also kind of looks like a little mini golf course. It makes me want to go mini golfing.
Yeah.
When you get the bell and it tells you make it all the way home, there was something that I loved about that return mission. The anxiety of, now we're not trying to solve things, we're trying to avoid people with this loud ass bell. So running makes a loud noise, makes it clang. Adjusting your posture makes it clang. You really have to be careful. We're then strategizing how to avoid people, or or lead someone one way only to zag back away from them. It reminded me to, I'm sure we're all familiar with Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave, but Tim Robinson was also on a different Netflix show called Characters, where he does this sketch that if you haven't seen it, I'll put it in the show notes. It's called Lady Luck, and it's probably my all-time favorite sketch I've ever seen, but he basically builds up this guy's like status. He's sort of like a 1950s high roller going to a casino singing this song called Lady Luck, and he's ordering the most expensive steak. He's with the most beautiful woman. He's gambling a bunch of money. And have you seen this, Hearn?
Yeah.
It basically all comes crashing down, and there was something about the bed we made in this game of just ruining these people's afternoons to have to go back through them gave me a similar feeling of having to not face my shame, but almost now avoid my shame again and just be a little stinker. I
like that you rightfully assumed Garrett and I had not seen this sketch.
I figured maybe. I mean, you all. I would assume you're both at least familiar with. I think you should leave if not had seen it. But yeah,
the car one is my favorite. Stinky.
Oh.
All time.
Is that Driving Crooner or is that 55 Burgers?
No, it's the
neither.
focus group.
The pitch of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
I
good
want a
car
steering wheel.
ideas.
It's
Yes.
not so small. It flies off.
Yes.
Anyways,
No, now I know. There's a
you
lot of
have
car
no
ones now
good
that I'm
car
realizing.
ideas, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is in love with his mother-in-law.
Now you have to marry your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, that last little return mission. Is there anything anyone wanted to say about it? I kind of monologued for a bit. My apologies. Yeah. Anything you want to say, folks?
I think you're wrong. I'm just kidding. I don't. It was the perfect monologue. What could you add to it?
Yeah.
Hey, huge.
As
Garrett,
far
you're
as
gonna say
this like gameplay wise, because up until that point you would kind of like open everything up, and there's even shortcuts to get
Yes.
back to earlier areas. So in my
which I was sure to open.
but in my head that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I'll just sneak through these ways, but then there's some aspects where they still kind of force you to, like, again, like you said, like, no, they kind of bottleneck you. You still got to go by some of these other areas. Like some of the gates close up. It's like, wait, I had that open. Oh shoot. Okay. I can't go that way. I got to go this way. Because I was like, I had it all open as soon as I found that bell, and it's like, go home. I'm like, oh, perfect. I can go right home. It's just that one gate and I'm there. Like, that's it. Like, I'm done.
Yep.
It's like, no, they're going to make me go through the areas. It's a little different, but it's still going through these areas. I'm like, oh no, this is not ideal. You know, but just how they did that, you know, they make you think, oh, I got this in the bag. I just be back in 2 seconds. And then, you know, you go back and like someone moved a cart in front of the gate or something and put a box down that wasn't there before. It's like, wait a second, this isn't right. My plan is falling apart.
Yes. I I might sound like a hypocrite of like saying that that's something that after talking about the example that I gave earlier, that I don't like when they do that in games, but I do like they did it to set up this final basically slide down getting back home, because I did the same thing, Garrett. All my gates were closed again and locked up. Well, to close things out today, I'd love to just go around and get some final thoughts on the game and sort of wrap up how we felt about it, you know, through our time, but also these revisits for a couple of us. Kristin, I'll start with you. Leaving this return to Untitled Goose Game, what do you want to share with us?
That I think it's worth its time, especially nowadays where it goes on sale all the time on Steam. Like, it's super worth the little bit of time that it spends to play it. I do think it's like, if you had to make like a 50 quintessential indies list, like, I think it deserves to be on there. It's definitely it's not overrated past me. But it is fun. It's a good time.
Awesome. Garrett, how about you?
Yeah, this game was frustrating at times for me. I'm bad at video games historically. It's kind of my deal on my podcast is I'm the worst at all games because I'm dumb, you know. So puzzle games are gonna be hard sometimes. So there's a couple times I was hitting hit my head against a brick wall, and just like, okay, how do I figure this out? But man, how just charming this game was, how fun the character was, controlling that goose, causing chaos, and then the feeling you get when finally accomplishing those puzzles, and then like the full circle moment of the story. It's like, okay, this was a really, really good time. Definitely worth the playthrough. And I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I am tempted to even like go back and like try to 100% it, like do, because you only have to do like out of the 5 for each level we talked about before, like you have to do there's 5 tasks on each level, but you only have to do like 4 of them to move on. And
I didn't realize
so
that.
like there's a couple areas I'm like, oh, okay, I open it, I'm just going to move on. It's like, oh, I want to do that. And then they give me the secret task. So it's definitely got the hooks in me enough where I am interested in maybe at some point picking it up and doing a little more exploring, unlocking more of that world. So it's a good one. Highly recommend.
I love it. Hearn, how about you? Especially on this new way you've played it in the co-op variety.
Co-op version, which is fitting to this.
Is.
I think there's a like sort of subgenre of indies that isn't even quite cozy, but it's almost like purposely obtuse game mechanic games. Like I'm thinking stuff like Octodad or Dating Over It with Bennett Foddy, where it's like these are games that kind of by nature are frustrating to play a little bit, but they're excessively frustrating. Like you know what you're supposed to be doing. You know the physics of it, you get used to it a little bit, you get used to the logic of it a little bit, but it's still like somehow tough, and somehow that drives you to keep wanting to do it well. It's like this weird balance that the game is juicing itself with you a little bit. And I remember having fun with it the first time I played through. I admit the co-op adds a wrinkle to it that I think maybe I'll get used to it, or I'll try it again and maybe it'll go better. But like, yeah, I think there's that dynamic that makes it stick out in your head, even if you like might not want to replay it immediately or something, because you have this story with it. You have the story of overcoming the frustrations of it all to get to the fun, to the charm, to like see the reactions you want to get out of people, and to cross off that always satisfying list of achievements and stuff. I think there's that's just all intrinsic to like its sense of humor, and I think there's like I think it's testament to the game that like it can still come up in conversation more than some other games of its type that and I think obviously that has to do with the universal humor of a goose that's just annoying versus more cerebral ideas. So I don't know, it's one of those indie like success stories that you can't help but like respect for where it lands in the vernacular, and also kind of glad it didn't overstay its welcome. It's the Untitled Goose Game. It's not like a whole series of games that we have to like inundate with ourselves, so it's pretty singular.
Nice. Thank you, Hearn. As for me, yeah, this was a game that was like at the top of my list as far as indie games that we haven't covered here on the network that I just had to do for, one of our 12 to 13 episodes that we did this year. One that was it was missing from my experience, and that I had heard such great things, and that I, like I said before, couldn't get it out of my brain because it's just stuck ever since it showed up. And I will say it was a journey with this game. I wouldn't say that I love this game, but I really liked my time with it, and the more that I just sort of like almost set myself free to have fun, to annoy, and to be goofy as the goose, as opposed to being so focused on trying to find secrets and make things happen, it opened it up for a lot for me. And like I said too, I can't believe that it made me feel the way I felt. Like I still can't believe that I'm comparing that moment, dropping the bell, to the Ghost of Tsushima like moment that like touched millions of lives. Yeah, this was a great game. I'm really happy I played it. And yeah, we'll see if I ever get curious enough to come back for the extras, because as soon as it was over, I was ready to be done. I don't know what that says about my playthrough either, but I guess honk to you, honks off to you, little goose. This was a blast, and that's gonna do it for co-op episode 57, and we'll end our discussion on Untitled Goose Game. On our way out, before I plug a bunch of stuff, I'll ask my guests to plug some stuff too. Anything that we plug today, you can find in a link in the show notes. So whether you're listening in a podcast feed or watching on YouTube, if you scroll down in the episode notes, you'll see all sorts of stuff that we're about to plug here in easy clickable links, including the videos I talked about earlier. I'll start with Hearn, buddy. Thanks for being back here. In general, the Half-Life crew. I mean, look at us. This was a dream. I'm so glad it worked out and that you all made time for it. But Hearn, on your way out, buddy, thanks for being here. What do you want to plug?
You can follow me on Blue Sky at MC Hearn, and you can look at my website, michaelchearn.com, to look at all my short films. Hopefully one day I get to be the untitled goose of the film industry and annoy and pester everyone.
Isn't that our dream? Garrett Morlang, thank you as well for being here, dude. Thank you for shifting some stuff around in your schedule to make this work for the fearsome foursome that we are. What do you want to plug on your way out?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun being with this crew. You can find me right now. Our podcast is every other week now, so go check it out though on YouTube, Super Gamer Boys, youtube.com/Super Gamer Boys, or on podcast apps all over Super Gamer Boys. And I just want to end on one goose fact that I actually just learned today. Did you know that geese have teeth?
Yes, they're
absolutely horrifying. So if you don't Google it before bed because you'll have nightmares.
Google it.
Anyways, that's all. That's all. That's all for
just
now.
Drop that grenade on the podcast and leave us with that. Thank you, buddy. And then Kristin, what do you want to plug on the way out? And as always, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want to plug my Goose Dentistry office. I'm on Twitch and Blue Sky as Kristin. And also I'm going to plug the game 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. You should play that game. I'm playing it right now. It's really fun.
All right. And don't even need a tie to Untitled Goose Game, but 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I love it. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you all for doing this episode. I'll go ahead and just close us out with a number of plugs of my own. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by Glenn J. You can find him and his other great work on Instagram at glenn.jay. This show is produced, edited, and the original music is by Jeremy Schmidt. You can thank him for the hard work he puts into this podcast by listening to his Video Games, a Comedy Show, wherever you get your podcast. Everybody here has been on at least one episode before. This show is also, you can find us on social media, so please give us a follow over on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, especially if you're just an audio listener. Go follow us on YouTube. Give us a subscription there, because the video's even better. Truly, you're gonna love seeing our beautiful faces. So do that as well. You can also follow the network at Super NPC Radio, all those places as well. YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, give us a follow there. On Twitch as well. You can follow me, Connor McCabe, on Blue Sky and Twitch. I've got links in the show notes. And you're already listening to Call Me By Your Game, so if you're doing that, thank you so much. Recommend the show to a friend. If you enjoy the show and the conversations I have with people about video games, I just want that other person who hasn't found it yet to do so. So yeah, share it with a buddy who either likes this game or video games in general. And then, of course, yeah, if you're listening this far and you're not already on the Patreon, check out what we have going on there at patreon.com/supernpcradio. This is a part of the bonus indie series that I'm doing this year at the $10 Engineer Toad tier level. Of course, it's out on YouTube for free as well. So if you want to catch next month's episode when it comes out, which is going to be all about Shovel Knight, you're going to have to check us out there. And there's also a free tier. Even if you want to subscribe to the free tier, that goes a long way for us to get you in there so you can see all the fun stuff we're doing. Yeah. But that's going to do it for another episode of the Call Me By Your Game co-op series. We will see you on the next one.